it meant anything goes. Anyone could die, anyone could fall in love, anyone could die, anyone could fall in love, anyone could die, anyone could die.
Age of Apocalypse.
Concept was so cool.
Age of Apocalypse.
Concept was so cool.
People couldn't believe it. They had to believe it. People couldn't believe it. They had to believe it.
Everything that you hit on the known level. Out the window. Everything that you hit on the known level. Out the window. Everything that you hit on the known level. Out the window.
I'm Jeremy Greer.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Cast, and we have finished Age of Apocalypse. We finished the fight. And now we are going to discuss, we got some feedback we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about our overall feelings of the crossover event. And, but Gary, since we record these all in a batch, you just mentioned the Justice League. Have you seen any of that stuff about like Rocksteady making that Justice League Suicide Squad game? Like the Batman guys?
All I know is that they're doing it. I haven't seen anything else about it other than that it's excellent.
Yeah, it's supposed to not all of the details, but like more details this weekend, and I think some stuff is just leaked. Not anything about what the game actually is, just that it's like Suicide Squad and Justice League, and like I like those Batman games a lot. I just don't have any faith in any of these developers to have like to be able to do multiple powers within one game and have it like feel consistent in any kind of way.
Feel good.
Yeah. I watched a lot of that.
I'll let them try.
I watched a lot of that Avengers game stream via stream this weekend, and it looks like garbage.
See, that was your first mistake. You just got to go in blind with it. Yeah, I don't know whether they'll do it or not. Like, I like those developers, the Batman people. I'm curious.
Yeah.
So, that's where I'm at.
I just superhero video games, man. Like I don't know how they're not better. Like we've gotten some really good ones over the years, but like it's shocking that they're not. But like that should be the ultimate combination, and it always feels a little disappointing.
It's weird. There have not been very many good ones.
Exactly.
You know. Yeah. I'm in the mood for another Batman game, and Arkham Knight showed me that they don't need to do Batman anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so I'm definitely down for them doing something different. And Suicide Squad is not like the movie I don't care about, but the old 70s or like 80s comics, the John Ostrander run is really good.
I haven't read any. I actually haven't read much DC at all, but I haven't read anything from that era. I'd be kind of curious to go into that and check it out sometime, maybe.
It's good. Like that specifically, John Ostrander Suicide Squad is like a well-regarded classic for a reason. Like it's a very good comic. I
really wanted to like that newer Harley Quinn movie a lot better than I did, and it was just okay.
I haven't watched it.
Yeah, it was.
I have a hard time with Harley Quinn. People keep explaining to me that she's good actually, and I just I don't know. There's something about the Joker's girlfriend that I have a hard time getting past that.
Yeah.
I just think it's dumb.
And like I think the thing, because the entire character hinges upon that relationship, which is kind of disappointing because. Like even the cartoon, which is really funny and good, is a lot about her relationship with the Joker. Like you just can't have the character without the Joker, and I don't really need to have the Joker. Like it's fucking 2020. Like
no,
I
do not need the Joker in my life.
Yeah, not at all.
You know, we've moved past the Joker. I think,
but we have not moved past the Joker cinematic universe, the JCU, and I'm very
the
excited
JCU.
about the JCU.
Speaking of moving past the Joker. The Age of Apocalypse barely had any Joker in it at all.
What was up with that, man? You would think, what was the Joker doing when Xavier died? Like, what was happening?
Yeah, like, how did he react? How did 70s New York Joker?
God, all of those like Marvel DC crossovers were so dumb, and I just ate them up like fucking candy, dude. I just couldn't stop it.
Yeah, Magneto and the Magnetic Men.
Match made in heaven.
So Age of Apocalypse, we reread it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Where are you at with it?
It's big and it's messy and it's overall extremely good. I think I mean maybe extremely is a little too much. It's extremely good. I'll make that distinction.
Yeah.
I ended up really liking it. Like I think it's fun that they got to play with those characters. I think it's fun that they got to get a little crazy with it. The execution is very in-your-face 90s style, which I think today it works a little less on me. But in some cases, it actually really, really worked for me. I think it's just, a crossover of this size with a publishing house like Marvel, it's always going to be messy. But like it got me in the end. Like the emotional payoff was there in X-Men Omega enough for me to have justified reading 20, however many issues that we read, 40, 50 issues of comics. I'm glad I didn't pay, $4 each for all of this stuff. And I probably did as a kid. I know I read most of this stuff as a kid, but I think nowadays I would be way less likely to get into this as it was happening. I'd always want to read it after the fact. So
yeah, that's a big change in how I like consume media in general.
Yeah.
Too, when they were doing the first big collections of this, they were roughly $25 a piece.
Yeah.
So it was like $100 to get the whole thing, which I remember doing like in my mid-20s out of nostalgia. But I was thinking like, I do think this is really above average for like 90s X-Men crossover.
Mm-hmm.
Like this reads better than your Phalanx Covenants or what have you. And it's a real weird thing where like we didn't plan it for this, but this came at exactly the time that I needed it because I needed something incredibly unchallenging.
Yeah.
Like this hit the spot. Like sitting down to do work for the podcast was always really fun because I was like, man, I'm going to turn off my fucking brain and watch X-Men Punch.
Yeah.
And that's not all I want out of
or watch
comics,
the Hulk try to fuck.
Yeah, or watch the Hulk get angry at Gwen Stacy for some reason. That's not all I want out of X-Men or anything. Like new X-Men, I think is like in terms of art is so much better than this.
Yes,
like there are themes to it. Like it's literary to a degree. This doesn't have that, but I had tons of fun with it and just the banging action figures together.
Yeah, me too.
Kind of way, like pretty consistently. And the other thing that like really struck me on reread is how big of a gulf there is between like the best and the worst comics of this. Like, I don't know if it's just because of me, but this time around, I was much more interested in like Factor X and Weapon X as comics.
Yeah.
Like the kind of side stories ended up being my favorite stuff.
Me too. Yeah. I really like Factor X probably overall was my favorite out of all of this. Like the Gambit and the Externals I thought was really like a fun X-Men book, right? Like it's full of adventure. Factor X was, like a lot of the relationship between Havoc and Cyclops and even how that ended up being with Jean Grey and Logan and Weapon X, like all of that stuff I thought was super good. And like there like especially in Weapon X, there was a little morality to it of, that Logan thinking that they had to do this and still feeling like a shitbag about it. Like there was a little bit of interest there. Like there was some gray stuff that they were working with and not just, hey, there's Sugar Man is here and he wants to kill what young girls you got. So
yeah. Well, even that story ended up being like, I also feel like Generation Next like might be my second favorite one because of the end.
Yeah. The Colossus stuff at the end really fucking nails that, right? Like that, the payoff on that is really good.
And it works because up until that point, it's like a really goofy book, like it's weird to praise Scott Lobdell as a writer, but I feel like that was actually like pretty deft, like doing this like goofy heist and then having like, no, this is actually absolutely horrific. Like this is, this version of Apocalypse or Colossus is so dark that he's going to do something totally horrible.
Yeah.
Ended up really liking that.
Me too.
Yeah. So those were really good. The X-Men stories were fine generally, like with the mainstream X-Men fighting Abyss and Holocaust were fine. Like a lot of fine stuff. Like, X Universe and X-Men Chronicles really sucked, but those are the only things I thought like absolutely sucked the stars from the sky. Really.
The X-Man, I think is a real weak link in this stuff, but just because, and we talked about it when we talked about the issues, but like your character focus is on this like brash teenager who looks like he's 26, like I'm watching fucking Riverdale, and like none of the supporting characters were interesting or really even stuck around for a long time. Like Sauron was there and he had a gun. Like I just don't or like Mysterio was there. Like a lot of it just did not make sense. And what's
up with Siren?
Yeah, and
being there,
and it's for as much as they like said that he would be this all powerful mutant, he does go toe to toe with Apocalypse at the end and goes toe to toe with the Holocaust, but he doesn't I was expecting him to like destroy a city, right? Like I thought this dude was going to be so powerful he couldn't contain it. Like the X-Men were going to have to fuck with X-Man at some point. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the reason why you thought that is because the X-Man story led you to believe that by having this whole thing about Forge being like, you can't give into your rage.
Exactly. Yeah.
Actually, no, though. Go into your rage like crazy.
Yeah, just rage out. Bro.
Like Forge was wrong. It is a really thematically like messy book, and like got more annoying as it went on. I felt like initially it was kind of fun because it's such an unusual setup, and then got kind of obnoxious.
Yeah.
So cool, fun little event. Before we get into your feedback, just because this will segue nicely, we are going to take a break from long stuff.
Yes.
For a while. We have our next big long thing chosen. But we're going to do some minis before that. So the first thing we're going to do is Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
That's a 2-issue arc, which I always forget about, but the original story is 2 issues.
Really strange.
Real quick.
And I remember when I was doing my recent reread, like this comes out of fucking nowhere. Like you are reading normal X-Men stuff and then you buy the next issue and it's like all of the X-Men are dead. It's fucking wild.
Yeah. It was a really innovative at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a thing. Absolutely. So we're going to do that. Then we are going to do Deadly Genesis, which is the Brubaker story about the team that Xavier sent before he sent the giant size X-Men team.
Yes.
This ended up having, this was a huge thing. We basically want to jump around time periods and get out of the 90s. So this was the 2000s crossover, late 2000s. This basically is what gave birth to Vulcan, who ended up shaping the X-Men line for quite a while and doing a lot of space stuff.
Yeah.
Solve the third Summers brother mystery. Finally.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And to
everyone
really loved it when that happened too.
Yeah.
I like Deadly Genesis. I remember I read it on like one of my return to comics. It was like, oh, this is, like it's kind of a self-contained story. I'd be kind of curious what happens, and it's really, really good. Like, and it's got a twist ending, and I like twist endings. So
yeah, I'm really excited to reread it. I haven't read it since it came out, but I dig it. And then that's only 7 issues to make it a nice even 8. We're going to do X-Men #1.
Yes. The original
Uncanny X-Men #1 from the 60s.
From the 60s, yeah. Because just to get a little taste of that old Silver Age stuff, just to kind of go through it. I'm real excited to do that. We're not going to be doing the whole series. Like, I don't think that anybody wants us to go through any of that stuff.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, not in a million years. Like, those are bad comics.
Yes.
The 60s, 60s Fantastic Four is, like, kind of fun, but 60s X-Men was not super good.
Yeah.
For quite a while. Like X-Men didn't get good until Chris Claremont came around, really.
Yeah.
But that first issue is a self-contained story, and it's kind of fun to make fun of.
So
so that's the idea.
To recap, it's 2 issues of Days of Future Past. It's 5 issues of Deadly Genesis, and then 1 issue of Original X-Men #1. All of that stuff should be available on on Marvel Unlimited, or at your local comic book shop, as people like for us to remind other folks. So definitely go read all of that, check it out. That's about a month worth of content for us. And then towards the end of that, we'll announce what our next big long series that we're going to be covering. And I'm super excited for it. We just don't want to talk about it yet because we want people to focus on what we're about to do and not to go jump into stuff like 2 months ahead of time.
Yeah. Or be like, don't do that.
Or that, yeah. We don't need your feedback. As we talk about your feedback episode,
we do need your feedback. We just need it at one specific place.
Yeah.
If it turns out we decide like, hey, we're really digging this, doing smaller stories, we also want to give ourselves the ability to be maneuverable a little bit. So if we decide we don't want to go into the next big thing, even though I do want to go into the next big thing, I'm really excited about it. It is a very consistent big thing. It's something I've reread many times.
Yes. Gary's going to give it away if he keeps talking about it.
Yep. It rhymes with Mechstream Dex Ken.
Wow. That rhymes with a lot of stuff.
Yeah. It's not Extreme X-Men. Which I was just Googling to give me ideas for stuff to cover after this. A lot of people like that fucking book. It shows up on a lot of like best X-Men stories things. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? Extreme X-Men was really horrible.
I wish we as a culture like we could get over best and worst lists. Like I fucking despise doing like game of the year, movie of the year stuff. Like I don't like ranking things generally in my life. And I wish that I could Google like most interesting X-Men stories and have like someone give me a list of that and like have it be good. But instead, it's like,
Yeah.
the comic book resources group had a vote, and this is the top
Yeah.
50 best. And like when you and I were looking at that, like one of the storylines was Professor Xavier is a jerk, and I'm like, that's just a panel.
Yeah.
It's not a story.
Yeah, it's
like, what are we talking about? Like,
it's
everybody
not.
likes the panel.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. So I agree. I would love to find a better resource for that.
Yeah.
My Marvelous year will probably have some stuff on that but they're going year by year. So, yeah, let's get into the feedback.
Sure.
Do you want to tell us what Riley says?
Riley from email says, my favorite scene in Age of Apocalypse was a conversation between Bishop and Magneto, where Magneto admits that he doesn't know if he'll be able to reset the timeline, given it will erase his son from existence, asking Bishop to get off his case and give them one last night together. To Bishop, this is a aberrant reality. Everything feels less to him, but for Magneto, this is the real world. Charles is his son. Everything that he felt and experienced is real. It's a great scene from this kind of comic because very often they can just treat alternate universes as more expendable and their inhabitants' experience as less valid. Totally agree. Like any of the times that Magneto was like worried about, like I'm going to have to sacrifice my entire life and all of these relationships that I have. Like anytime he was talking about that, I thought that was really interesting, and they didn't like belabor it too bad.
Mm-mm. And it wasn't mostly about having to waste all the money he already spent on thyroid medication for his ever-changing son.
Exactly. Yes. For his weird adult child.
Yeah.
For questions, if you could replace 161, I should let you. Do you have any comments on that? I'm sorry, I shouldn't. Probably should.
No. I just agree.
Okay.
Like I also think that's a really good scene.
Also, for questions, if you could replace 1616 X-Men character with their Age of Apocalypse counterpart, who would it be?
That's a good question. Thinking about that.
My instinct is to say Angel because he would be dead, but that seems just mean spirited. So I'm gonna try to think.
Yeah, that's not very nice.
Think of a second one.
We wouldn't have Archangel and stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
There's some good Archangel shit.
I guess we should keep Angel around so he can tear apart his personality and his body at the same time
and become Archangel.
Yeah.
We need to keep him around to be tortured.
Yeah, seems worth it. Worth, as the teens say.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like any of the main X-Men.
Who are better in this version?
Yeah, and I don't really think so.
Yeah, it's difficult. Exodus is definitely cooler in this than he is and he doesn't do very much in this, but he's pretty lame in the 616, I think. But that doesn't really count because he's like a villain.
Yeah. Quicksilver is pretty much Quicksilver. Storm pretty much feels like Storm.
I think Quicksilver is way worse in Age of Apocalypse. Like in the 616, he's like a real asshole, and it's good.
They didn't do much with her, but like the angry Shadowcat is kind of a vibe that I can get behind. But also, I think they kind of deal with some of that in like more modern X-Men stuff. Like she gets a little pissed off at everybody, so maybe that already exists to a degree.
Yeah,
man, this is kind of tough.
This ends up actually being like way harder because it's fun to see those characters, but like I wouldn't give up my Dazzler for that Dazzler.
No,
who also didn't appear in the last comic for some reason.
Who?
I forgot about that.
She didn't even die.
You know who? What I got an answer.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Havoc because when Havoc is a hero, like I like Havoc for dumb teenager reasons. When he's a hero though, he just ends up kind of being worse Cyclops a lot of the time. Like him going full villain makes a lot of sense. And him being defined by this inferiority complex instead of it being something that he gets over for long periods of time and then writers just choose to invoke whenever they want to, I think would have been better. So I'm going to say Havoc.
Okay. I like Havoc. Man, I'm still kind of struggling, so I may just either stick with Angel or piggyback on your Havoc.
Yeah.
Because man, like most of the actual heroes either they're not dramatically different or they're just kind of annoying because they're so different.
Yeah. And it's like a lot of them are straight up downgrades. Like I'm not going to give up Cable for X-Man.
No.
Fuck that shit. There's I'm not going to give up Forge for weird, like whatever that
for
Forge
theater Forge? No, thank you.
Theater Forge, like I fucking, where there's a real.
God, can you imagine if Forge getting real into Hamilton and just like singing it a lot? Jesus Christ,
that's like yeah.
Forge, dial it down.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Sauron has a gun, so maybe we could just give him a gun in 616 and call it a day, right? Like that seems pretty cool. What if Sauron but gun?
Yeah. Yeah, an Age of Apocalypse gun. That's a good answer.
Mm-hmm.
Good answer. Local Emma Frost Stand 186 asks, congrats on the end of another fun arc. I've enjoyed reading along with y'all, and I'm excited to see what you do next. You reignited my interest in actually reading about the X-Men rather than experiencing them vicariously through the podcast. I picked up some books that are Mr. Sinister heavy because I need more of that sweet, creepy looking geneticist after this season. Mm-hmm. Anyways, we all know why I'm here. Get ready for Fuck, Marry, Kill Age of Apocalypse edition. Your options are Holocaust, Dark Beast, and Sugar Man. Rough options.
I am going to immediately kill Holocaust.
Yeah, Holocaust seems like I don't want to marry him or fuck him.
Yeah.
How would you fuck him?
I mean, I guess you'd start with the treads and the feet and then work your way up.
Yeah, you get a foot job from Holocaust.
His little like bulbous arm, his left arm, it has like holes in it. So I mean, you could presumably like put a finger in there or something.
But you and all your friends can also like get down.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Get a party.
I guess I would marry Dark Beast. Out of the options between the two, because I just like Sugar Man seems like he'd be good for a roll in the hay, but like Dark Beast, like it's going to be an adventure.
Yeah. I think you could also say the opposite as well.
True.
I think I'm going to go just to be the opposite. Cause I think that Dark Beast, to marry him, he's a little too like long-term evil.
Okay.
And Sugar Man is like, at least you know what you're getting. Like he's not deceptive.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know Dark Beast is gonna like want a gene pool at the house, right? Like, we're gonna have to figure that out. Like, we're gonna have to figure out how to drain the gene pool every once in a while to clean it. Like, I know, like, we're gonna have to do some work, me and Dark Beast. You know what I'm saying, for our long term plans. Like, if we're gonna stay in South Louisiana, like, are we sure? Like, coastal erosion's pretty bad. Like, do we need to go to Arkansas? Like, we're gonna have to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Where do we want to put this gene pool if we want to be able to access this gene pool long term?
I guess Sugar Man would be a mystery because we know he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
But also, like, if you married Sugar Man, you'd go to the wedding and it'd be like the bride side and the groom side, and his side would be all full of, like, Frankensteins and shit.
I mean, that would be pretty dope. See them on the dance floor, dude. Come on, what?
Yeah,
that'd be super good.
Yeah,
but you shouldn't.
So I think I'm gonna fuck Dark Beast.
You shouldn't marry people just for the wedding, though. That seems a little wrong.
Yeah. That sounds like an expression.
It does, right?
Like, man, he really just married him for the wedding.
Did I just Teen Vogue somebody? I'm sorry, everybody.
As long as we can both agree that we kill Holocaust, though.
Yes, absolutely.
Because that guy fucking sucks.
100%. Not in for that. Jake writes in and they say, do you think this is their actual Twitter handle, Krakoan Mimosa? Probably not, huh?
I hope so. It's a good Twitter handle.
It's a good Twitter handle, if so, Jake. I'm going to give you some props on that. Yep, that's them. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah.
Extremely cool. Okay, good job. And thank you for letting us dox you. It's been an absolute delight to listen to y'all talk about Age of Apocalypse during these quarantine times. If y'all are ever hungering for some X-Men Evolution style mashuism, check out X-Men Age of Apocalypse from 2005. It has to be one of the most uninspired comic book follow-ups. It basically makes the AoA universe identical to the main Marvel universe. As an added bonus, is written by Akira Yoshida, the fake Japanese writer that's currently editor-in-chief at Marvel. CB Cebulski made up to write comics under. It's so shit. Wow, I did not know any of this drama.
You did not know about that?
I did not. He faked being a Japanese person?
Yeah, he made up a writer.
Named Akira?
Yep, named Akira Yoshida. It's like 10th level weeaboo shit.
That seems bad.
Like yeah, it's really bad. But he's did not, like, he had consequences, but he didn't lose his job. So
good. But Apocalypse, think of the consequences. All in my plan to become Marvel editor-in-chief.
to become Akira Yoshida.
Akira, like, man.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's no good. It's real no good.
That's not good. I did not know about that. Sometimes I'm really glad I don't like I get probably too much news about like video games in my life, and like Souls games specifically, because I've got such a tie to that kind of community and everything. But sometimes I'm just like that cello X-Men animated series theme cover came out this week, and like 4 people added us about it. A bunch of people talked about it in Slack and got posted several times. And like I get some of that, but some like general Marvel news just misses me completely, and I'm kind of happy about that. Like the less I know about Marvel is probably the better off I'm going to be.
I had a very intense moment about this with video games, where like there was some drama. I don't want to just know there's some video game drama. No more hints. And I had the realization, like, I am so glad that I exhibit this weird little lonely corner of this and don't actually belong to any community. You know, like, we have our own community, but I'm not like, there are people who like I get along with, like I'm friends with the Retronauts guys and stuff. I like them, but there's no like drama. There's no scene. Like when something like this happens, like I hear about it, but I don't have to like have a take on it.
Yeah.
You know, I get to go, oh, okay.
I mean, that's
and
never
then just
stopped
go
you
back
before, but yeah, you don't have to.
Well, like, but even my video game shit, like most of my takes are about games.
Yeah,
it's not about like,
people.
Oh, this person did this, you know, oh, what's Kotaku up to? You know, I just kind of leave that alone. And it's not that I think people shouldn't do that. I think they should, but I'm really glad I'm not like mired in it and expected to be part of like that part of any of these scenes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
We are
very, very happy about that.
with the Monster of the Week podcast. We are tangentially related to that fandom, and it's like that's a really, really intense fandom with like some like huge drama that goes on a regular basis, both like about the TV show, about the actors, about, you know, whether or not such and such is okay, and all this other stuff. And we get a lot of feedback just because people say, like, you know, you guys were the first people we listened to that did not talk about any of that. Like like you're just talking about the show, and I'm like, yeah, that's because we only care about the show. Like all that stuff actively makes the thing that we're looking at worse. And it's amazing how positive like being involved in those communities can be, and also extremely negative at the same time, depending on what the community is. And it boggles my mind that like as a group we can get together and be like, this thing is cool. Well, yeah, but this thing about it is what makes it cool. And it's exactly that. I can't remember that dude's name that does the videos, but like, well, I love this thing. I really fucking like this thing. Like it's that.
Percy D.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. People like this thing. People who exist.
But man, like sometimes I'm just really glad that, you know, some of this stuff just completely misses me, and I don't get involved with it. So,
yeah, same. Like I knew about this, but I didn't, and I'm not saying it's not bad. Like, of course it's bad. I was just happy that like I wasn't in the absolute middle of all of the anger around it.
Yes.
I read it and I was like, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
That's real shitty. I don't really want to support that dude.
That's my experience, right? Like I just read this and went, that's real fucked up. Like I kind of feel weird about paying Marvel for anything. Like hey, you know, Jake finishes it up and says, looking forward to whatever y'all cover next. Now, not sure if it's been recommended before, but Uncanny X-Force by Rick Remender might be a natural one for y'all to hit up at some point. It follows up on a lot of the things from both Morrison's run and the AoA. I really, really like Rick Remender and all of the X stuff that he's done. I've read Uncanny X-Force. It's reading, like picking up like that number 1 or whatever you started, I think it's a number 1, was fucking bizarre to me because I had no idea what was going on with any of those characters. And like that's where I found out about Vampire Jubilee and Baby Sinister or Baby Apocalypse or whatever. Like
Kid Apocalypse.
Yeah, like there's all kinds of weird shit going on, but it's still like really, really good, and I enjoyed it a lot. So definitely, it's definitely been recommended, but also it's also been recommended by me. So
yeah, we're not doing it next, but I am interested in it.
Yes.
So I've been reading comics before bed, and I will pop that onto my saved like homepage thing, because this is the like second or third recommendation I've heard from it in a pretty short period of time. So I've never read it. It was during a period I wasn't really reading comics.
Sure.
But yeah, thank you. Brian says, I was really hoping you guys would talk about how Cyclops blew Wolverine's hand off while you were discussing the claws were in his wrist the whole time reveal. When I was a kid, I remember thinking it did not make sense because of adamantium, as we all know, is indestructible. Wouldn't there just be a weird skeleton hand hanging off the wrist cam? I've been wondering about this for 20 years. Imagine him rolling around like that for 4 issues. Maybe he asked Magneto to melt the skelly hand and get rid of it for him, which would be a nice side story,
which would be a sick side story. I think.
Sick story.
I love it.
Sick side story. Make a cool chain or something to give Rogue. I'd also like to hear your thoughts on Colossus's pubes, as I often wonder if it must turn into a hard shell like his hair. Thanks for the good work. I appreciate the show during my commute.
He shaves.
We did mention how weird it was that he didn't lose his hand. I just want to point that out.
Yeah.
We did.
We didn't get into like dangling skeleton hand or anything.
No. I wish we had. But
I'd be curious. Like, I think the thing that they probably even thought about, but they just didn't have time for is like, like they left that hand at at the pins, and like Dark Beast has it now. And what could Dark Beast do with like a weird metal scaly hand? Maybe that's how we get Wolverine. That you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, maybe.
But that dude didn't have claws though. He was just named Wolverine, so probably not. Never mind.
He had like weird, like he had blades on his forearms in a way that would make it impossible to sit in a chair with arms,
and clearly no healing factor. I guess not.
Yeah. You could just had it floating in a background shot.
Exactly.
In Factor X.
Yeah, I would.
And
100% into that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because Wolverine, you could cut off Wolverine's hand. Like the way its bones are weird, man. Because there's like space between them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you could definitely cut off any part of Wolverine. You just have his skeleton there. And that happens, I think, in the comics. It grows back with adamantium, and that's fucking weird.
Yes.
Because
there was that Wolverine versus the Hulk comic that was like super slow, where the Hulk tears his head off and like throws it, and he just grows himself back from the head.
Yeah. And then like it has adamantium. It's real fucked up.
Yeah. Where'd the adamantium come from?
I don't know. Why they have the bowl?
Akira.
Why they have the bowl? Yeah. On the matter of Colossus's pubes, I also think it probably turns into a little like pube fro, like his hair does.
Sure.
How his hair turns into one big solid piece, like a Lego like figure.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you it's like a Lego man's hair, but for pubes.
Do you think the first time that he turned into a metal guy, he just had like a full crazy bush, and he was like, that metal was like sticking out the pants to the point it was uncomfortable, and like since then he's been real careful about trimming down there. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know enough about Russia. Like I don't know if that was in style at the time. Like whether
I know the guy's Russian, but like, do you think? Okay, so you're saying that he would like talk to some people around him, and we're like, you guys manscape or what? And they were like, no.
Yeah, I just don't know if like Russian guys in the 70s, like whether they had big bush or not. That's the main thing I'm thinking about. So if you know, write in.
Please write in.
Like if you're
also like just Russian guys in the 80s and 90s today, like did the whole radio station treatment on it.
just write in. Look, I'm looking to meet Russian guys. I'm not looking to meet Russian guys. I've only met a couple Russian dudes, and the one I met was super scary.
Yeah, that's
the one I spent the most time with.
All of my
real drunk and angry.
All of my experience with Russian dudes were drunk, angry, and wanting weed. And I'm like, I don't have anything that you want, my friend.
Those dudes know how to party, and I do not. So, yeah.
From Twitter, Adam wearing a mask and dethroning God at Adam with a bunch of underscores in them, and I'm not going to count those. Tweeted at us and says, "God damn it! Why did you have to remind me of that awful Get Over It song by the Eagles? I had successfully blocked all of that Hell Freezes Over reunion album out of my memory, and now it's all back. Fuck. I just want to." You guys should thank me. I downloaded a copy of that song and decided not to put it in the podcast, although I did put us talking about it and left all of that in where I read the lyrics to Gary. So
well done.
Yes. You're welcome, everybody.
Yeah. Well done. I had not thought about that song either, but I was able to forget it because of Hell World.
Yes.
So I immediately thought about just how horrible everything is. Finally, our final response, Miguel, covered with scorpions.
Very good, Miguel.
Says, a couple years ago in a bout of depression, I decided to read every X book from the 60s to the 2010s. Age of Apocalypse really is an oasis of its decade, and basically the only particularly readable thing in between Alan Davis's Excalibur run and Morrison coming in to make the X-Men decent again. Also, I just want to bring up X-Men Legends 2, still my favorite of the Marvel Diablo clones, a treasure trove of obtuse and obscure X characters, and where I personally was introduced to Sugar Man, a truly life-changing experience. P.S. They did a set of Age of Apocalypse Marvel Legends. Yeah, they did. Those are the new ones, but they also had a couple of the old ones back when I was collecting the toys. Yeah. I had Sabretooth and Weapon X.
I don't know what it is about all of that stuff. Like, it just doesn't do it for me. Like, it just like I look at it and I'm like, okay, and then like our Slack loses their mind about it, and I'm like, okay, cool, yeah. And
it's really, we just got a couple toy boys in the Slack. It's not very many people.
Look, I don't want to call Yokai and Chris out specifically by name, but if you're gonna make me, okay. Hopefully I said
I'm one of the toy boys. I look at the toys. I used to be a toy man. I think they still look cool. I keep up with that line, but I don't buy them. I just want to know what's coming out. I also love X-Men Legends too. Watch out for Fireballs, episode 50. I think. We chose a nice important game for a nice big round number, or maybe it's episode 75.
Good.
It's like the
What
one
did you
where
have to sacrifice to Cole to get that?
No, we just forgot that it was a nice round number.
Oh, okay.
It's
Nice.
it's like all of our round numbers are like Castlevania 3, The Sims. It's all like big games, and then it's
Yeah, I want to say
Legends too.
episode 100 of this podcast, like we didn't even, because of the way we record now, we didn't even acknowledge that it was happening, and it was just like a random issue of New X-Men. Like it's just a
Yeah.
I don't know.
Cool.
We didn't even like we don't even talk about it because we don't do episode numbers anymore. So yeah,
I love X-Men Legends too. I am due for a replay of those. I've got the PSP version is how I want to try to play it.
they remastered
on the go.
those. Is that right? Did they? What did they put?
No, they remastered the Ultimate
Alliance games. That's what it was. That's why.
which are also good.
Yeah.
Like those are also they're just like less X-Men,
Yeah,
more Avengers, but like a bunch of X-Men are in it. So
I really.
those are cool. Also, sorry,
No, go ahead.
I just hadn't thought about X-Men Legends for a minute. I was looking on emulator. There's actually a huge modding scene for the X-Men Legends games that mod in characters, both fan made and from other games.
I love it.
You can basically play as every X-Men character that has ever existed in those games with like full power sets and shit. Like the powers tend to be reskins of things already in the game because people aren't doing like coding and shit, but it's pretty neat. Like some of them have voice work.
That is
Things like that,
wild.
Yeah, it's real neat. I discovered it some weird Google night, just kind of like mindlessly Googling. So,
Man, I wish they would do more with that. I grabbed when it came to PS4. I think it was on sale or something. So I picked up like Marvel versus Capcom just as like a mindless button pusher. And man, like just put more 2D X-Men in video games. I love that shit so much.
Yeah.
Like that stuff is so cool, and it just doesn't exist. And because Marvel is so focused on the Avengers right now, so.
Yeah. It's just the X-Men have to get good movies again, so we can get the good video games about it.
Yeah, we can get the guy from The Office to be Cyclops.
Horrible idea. Just like he's too like Cyclops isn't that kind of nerd. The other thing too about the 90s being a rough decade for comics is 100% true. But I did just reread Executioner's Song, and it was really good. It's 12 issues, and it's like legit like a really fun comic with tons of really good fights.
Dude, you've just been working that fucking Marvel
story.
Unlimited sub, huh?
I'm incredibly depressed, Jeremy.
That's sad.
I'm so sad all the time. And reading comics in bed requires very little energy.
That's true.
So yeah, thanks everybody.
Yes, thank you for writing in. Thank you for listening. A reminder, the next 2 podcasts are going to be about the original Days of Future Past, and then we're going to go into some Deadly Genesis, and then we'll be covering the original X-Men #1. So there's your lineup for the next month or so, everybody. All of that stuff should be available on Marvel Unlimited. Go check it out. And yeah, we'll be announcing what we're going to be doing after that. In the meantime, patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Tell your friends, tell your mom. She'd love this podcast, I'm sure.
Dude.
Yeah, moms love me, so I don't want. I mean, like, maybe not anymore. Maybe now that I'm 40, moms would be like, "Why are you here?" But like when I was a kid, moms
still
me.
love me. I just don't see them very often.
Yeah.
But moms really love me.
Don't get a lot of mom action anymore. I guess 2020, not a lot of mom action.
It's the best. It's the best. Mom action. It's better than mob action.
It's true. Good night, everybody.
Good night.